All right, welcome to the Good Rookie Show. My name's Faheem.
And my name is Nelly J, y'all, and we are good
That's
looking.
right.
What's going on, everybody? Happy Good Tuesday. And guess what? It's the Good Rookie Show.
Yep.
So, Fahim, I don't know about you, but so excited to have this incredible guest on the show today.
hmm
Please introduce who we got.
All right, yeah, we'll be able to double down a lot more about him on the For the Culture segment. But let's welcome Blake Murphy to the podcast today.
Hey guys, thanks for
Blake,
having me on.
Blake, Blake, Blake,
Yeah.
Blake.
I gotta ask. So in finding out about you guys and like looking up more about you guys, Good Rookies Podcast is a great name, but you guys are now into year 3. Congratulations, by the way. Is it like did you consider good sophomores as a name too? And then now you're like, I don't even like basketball is not even a term. Good third-year players. Next year you're good restricted free agents. I don't know. I don't know what you do
Right?
from here.
Like honestly, everything is good, man. Good sophomore, good junior,
Yeah.
good senior, everything is good to us. Good vibes, good energy, and
Yeah.
good Blake Murphy's on the show. You know what I'm saying? So
Most
we
definitely.
excited out here. So Blake, I definitely gonna do a deeper dive with you in for the culture, but
hmm
quickly, we gotta talk about the Blue Jays, man.
hmm
This
hmm
team went through ups and downs. They were in the playoffs, they were not. They traded away everybody. They like all this has happened in the last 5 years. And now we're in a position where we are in the wild card, where we're actually look pretty good. Like we swept the Red Sox last week. The Cubs are in town. What's your thoughts on this team and our personnel today?
Yeah, they're in it's an interesting spot because, overall they're not that much different from where they were last year. And last year it was, oh my goodness, it's so fun and everyone's so excited. And then this year it's because of the ups and downs, but mostly because of the weight of expectations. It's felt like they're a lot worse. Like they're 70 and 58 as we record this. They're in a wild card spot like you said, Nelly. And you would think sometimes from the fan base and like my listeners and stuff like that, that they're in last place. It's a long season, so you're gonna have ups and downs like that. But I think if you're able to zoom out, they're one of the 4 or 5 best offenses in baseball. Their pitching staff, at least at the high end with Gosman and Manoa and Stripling, is in a pretty good spot. The honest truth, though, is they're gonna land in a wild card spot, and those are 3-game series, best of 3. Anything can happen in those. So if you get past that, maybe you like your momentum and you like your chances to go on a run. But in a 3-game series, if anyone tells you they know what's going to happen in a 3-game baseball series, they're lying.
Right. Right. So you just mentioned pitching. That's one thing with the Jays. Last time is maybe, I don't know, 4 years ago. Around this time is when we got Price
Yeah.
as a free agent. And that's the last time I think we really felt like this, we have a good shot to maybe make a push. With How do you feel about our starting pitching right now? Because you really can't win without starting pitching, right? So go
Yeah,
ahead.
I think it's in a good place at the top. Kevin Gosman was a sharp signing. He's been awesome, 3.14 ERA so far, one of the league leaders in innings pitched and in strikeouts. And then
Mhm.
you have Alec Manoa, who obviously instant fan favorite. He's kind of the modern version of that workhorse that goes out there every 5 days and gives you 6 innings every time. Like no one's throwing 300 innings in baseball in 2022 anymore. That's long behind us, but
Mhm.
he's the closest thing to one of those kind of throwbacks. And he's drifted off a little bit as the season's gone on, possibly because of fatigue, but still overall pretty good.
Okay.
So your 1-2 is in great shape. It's from there where the question marks pop up. Ross Stripling has been excellent. If the wild card series were tomorrow, you'd want him starting game 3, I think. But this is also, he's been a back and forth between the bullpen and starter guy his whole career. Like, is that a guy who is due some regression, or has he figured something out here?
Mhm.
You look at Jose Barrios behind him, he's having by far the worst season of his career. Yusei Kikuchi so up and down that they had to move him to the bullpen. And then they go out and they get Mitch White at the trade deadline, but he's, a 5th starter type or maybe a bullpen guy. So that's a lot of question marks if you get into a 7-game series. I think in a 3-game series, as long as they can line up the starters the way they'd hope, I think you like their chances with Gausman and Manoa and Stripling as a top 3. There aren't many teams out there that can match that as a top 3. But yeah, if you get to the World Series and you're in game 6 or game 7 and you already used all those guys, it gets dicey after that.
Yeah, most definitely. So recently announced, Major League Baseball is having all teams play each other. It's once during the season, come 2023. It's the first time that's happened. Be interesting. Blake, can you give us some insight in regards to that?
Yeah, so it's part of the idea is to balance the schedules out a little bit more so that the Jays aren't playing the Yankees and Red Sox and Rays 19 times a year, or I should include the Orioles in there now because they're good once again too. So
finally,
yeah, there's an element of that hasn't always been the most fair. And if they expanded the playoff field this year, and if you're gonna have extra wild cards, it probably makes sense for those teams to be competing on the same playing field. And you could look at the wild card race right now. The Jays and Tampa Bay are in 2 of the spots, but they've had to play each other and the Yankees a million times this year.
Yeah.
Seattle is in an easier division. The American League Central teams, like every team in that division, is bad. So part of it is to balance that out a little bit more. Part of it is also that you want to give people new and novel matchups, right? So if you're a lifelong Toronto baseball fan, I mean, when have you gotten the chance to see the Dodgers?
Right.
Yo, Blake, you're in my brain. I was just saying, like, I haven't seen the Dodgers like us play them in so long. Like,
yeah, and like so they'll visit the Dodgers next year. I don't think I'll get to be at that one, but Dodger Stadium is so there's only 7 stadiums I've never been to before. And the Dodgers are one of them. So for me, that's a huge thing. I think, this weekend will be an interesting one because obviously the schedule is not balanced yet, but the Jays are going down to Pittsburgh. And if you can make Pittsburgh a more regular part of the schedule, that's a very drivable, very family-friendly stadium. Cool city to go visit. So you get a little more opportunity for those kind of road trips that we see where the Jays go in and they dominate the crowd in Minnesota or Seattle, or the Raptors go down to Detroit or whatever. You get a little more opportunity for stuff like that. I think it just freshens things up after 150 years of Major League Baseball.
Right.
Let's freshen it up a bit.
It's so crazy how they're doing this change now, Blake. I was like, this should have been done a decade ago, because you're absolutely correct. Our division, the Blue Jay division, is always so much harder. We have so many great teams in our division, and it's like we're playing each other all the time. Yeah, we're not going to do so great every year, especially in our division. But I think like in the NBA has that, right? Each team plays 2 teams twice, at minimum, in the Western Conference, or your division 4 times, right? But you're playing each other throughout the entire season, which makes the rankings and the league leaders a bit more, more fair. It's not the best because the Western Conference is a bit harder than us, but it's a bit fairer than baseball where you're just playing your own division all the time. So I agree with everything you said, bro.
So Blake, you mentioned about stadium. So for instance, let's take Core Stadium, right? They have altitude that they have to deal with, while you have others. Like, that's one thing about baseball where it's kind of, it varies depending on what city it is. Not like it's indoor like in basketball or other sports, right? So I guess having this each team playing each other, in one way, it's going to, like you said, give that parity where you get the different feels for different spaces. I guess the bigger thing for me, or the biggest thing I'm thinking, is the DH situation. Like being in the Eastern division, there's no, how to say this, like, what Blue Jays pitchers do we know can bat? You know what I'm saying? Like, how is that going to play?
Well, that's part of why I think they've gotten rid of the pitchers hitting even in the National League now. So that's new this year. Pitchers aren't hitting anymore.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of loss of, like, it was always fun to find out which pitchers could hit a little bit, like Madison Bumgarner or Zach Greinke would walk into the odd home run or whatever. But yeah, and it was always an interesting thing in the World Series too, because you have this American League team whose pitchers haven't hit all year, And then for at least 3 games of that series, they got to go in there and try to hit. So I think the league mostly did it because they want offense to improve. And that's why there's now a DH in the NL2. But I do wonder if, to your point, they were looking ahead and they were like, we can't do a more balanced schedule until everyone's playing under the same rules.
Right.
So they kind of had a foresight of saying, let's change this rule first.
I would think so. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one team we know is definitely going to benefit regardless is the Angels with Ohtani, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, they had to basically create the Ohtani rule, which is, so when he pitches, he's also their DH because they want him in his bat in the lineup. And they had to kind of create this rule where he can come out of the game as a pitcher and stay in as the DH the rest of the game. Because before, you would have had to do this really convoluted switch a couple guys in and out and maybe lose your DH to manage that. So yeah, I mean, you're a big time historical player when there's a rule that's unofficially named after you.
I mean, there's the Jordan rule. I mean, this is but he's special though. That guy is special. That's all I gotta say.
So one last thing, for someone like myself, I would consider myself, I guess there's different levels to being a baseball fan. When I was young, I was a huge baseball fan. I was watching baseball games all the time. As I grew older, now I'm more, I mean, if I'm looking at levels, maybe you're looking at highlights. Next level would be maybe the Jays in 30. And then next level is the actual, watching games. Right now, I'm very much still highlights. And I guess it depends, quite honestly, on how well the Jays do. I'll be honest. The Jays do better. I start to find myself more being a Jays in 30 and then working myself eventually to the final. How is that rule like going to affect someone like myself, or just a casual fan, do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. That'll be interesting to track. I think you're right that the thing that's going to drive most people is how well the team's doing.
Right.
Like if the team is, in last place, I don't know that anyone's going to get excited that like, oh, they haven't played against the Miami Marlins in a couple years. But if the team's doing well, it maybe freshens up. It's a pretty long season, right? Like, and I think to your point about the different levels of baseball fan, baseball is the easiest sport to kind of drift in and out of those different tiers. Like basketball, you miss a quarter and it feels like you missed a lot, right?
Yeah.
Baseball, you could miss a couple games and like get back to speed pretty quickly. So I think that allows for that. But I think, yeah, there are a few more opportunities of, you mentioned Coors Field. The Jays haven't played there in forever, and it's this unique ballpark with unique environmental factors. Like, yeah, maybe that's one that you tune into because you're curious if Vlad's going to hit 500-foot home runs there. Whereas, at a different park, who cares? You get to see Wrigley Field a little more often, or Dodger Stadium or something like that. The ballpark in San Francisco is beautiful. So, if not highlights, it'll at least freshen up your Jays in 30. Different backdrops.
That's what.
Thank
Opponents. You. Blake, I was gonna say, just watch Jason 30. That's what I watch. It's just so simple. After work, I'll put it on, and it has 30 minutes, and it shows all the highlights. But to your point, Blake, since Faheem is confessing his sins about being a Blue Jays fan, I will confess my sins. I used to go to games like every year. I haven't gone since the pandemic. I haven't gone. Like I was more into the Jays before, because after work, work trips, you go. But I haven't been to any games since the pandemic. But I do hope when the wild card game, I definitely want to try to catch one. But I would say I was an avid fan growing up because I like baseball as a kid. I love playing it. So I played it in school and stuff. When I got older, I played more basketball than baseball because I'm a competitor. I like that stuff. But I think baseball is a beautiful sport and it's better live or you're playing it. So I hope a lot of people who don't watch baseball, I hope today's episode makes you think, you know what, maybe I should watch a Blue Jays 60 or 30 or like watch. Honestly, it's really fun, guys. And if you go with your family and your kids, it's a great day to watch Blue Jays. Like it's a great day. So
definitely
for the Blue Jays there.
Yeah, it's a good time in baseball too. There are a lot of young, cool stars coming up right now. Like you might even see in a wild card series if the Jays get Seattle, they've got Julio Rodriguez there. This young rookie hotshot who's one of the most exciting young players we've had in forever. We talked about Ohtani. You've got Vlad. You've got Tatis is suspended now, but him, Soto, Acuna. Like there are a lot of good young talent coming up, and my hope at least is that baseball looks at the way basketball has built and marketed itself, very social media friendly, very digital friendly, very like personality and star driven. And they take a little bit from that, because baseball's kind of always leaned on, well, baseball markets baseball and like the history of the game and like Field of Dreams, Kevin Costner BS. Like, no, it's like if you have young, cool players who are highlight machines, like that's the way to push a casual to watching more often, or to hook someone who's not even a casual.
Right. Oh, so you just mentioned the young stars. Judge is somebody who's, he's exciting. Hits the long ball, which is always exciting. Just found out, let's see, he's the first Yankee, which is a storied franchise, to hit 50 home runs, 50 plus home runs for 2 straight seasons. Other ones would be Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle.
Yeah, so not 2 straight, but 2 times.
2 times. Okay,
two times.
He set the Yankees record as a rookie.
Right.
He had 52 as a rookie. That was a couple years ago now. And this year he's already at 51.
50, yeah.
Right. So 50, the second time in his career. Okay.
Yeah.
So
he's at 50 right now. 51 now? Sorry.
Yeah, 51.
Okay. I thought he was at 50, but okay. 51.
So that was actually, I was going to ask with that. Do you have a number prediction on where he's going to land with that one?
I'll say 61. Just
60?
because
60?
Yeah, he's got like 30 games ish left. So yeah, he's got 32 games left. I just double checked. So that's he's getting one right now every 2.5 games. So he could maybe get 10 down the stretch here. And then I also like 61 because it was like the record before the steroid era. So I just think it would be kind of funny for him to like tie that and land there. Obviously it's cool if he were to get 62, say, it'll be cool because, he won't have the record, but there are some people who'll be like, oh, he has the non-steroid record or whatever.
Blake, question. Do you think they're testing him after every game? Your thoughts?
I think they're probably testing him a lot, but he's also like, I think he's like 6'7" and like almost 300 pounds, and he's really fast. Like this guy could be the best tight end in football, probably, and like play some like small ball power forward in the NBA. Like he's a super athlete. So I don't know that there's much going on there.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
All right, so Nelly J, you just mentioned super athlete. Let's go to super people in media. Let's go to For the Culture.
For the culture, I would like to highlight individuals that are for the culture. And today we get to highlight Blake Murphy.
Yeah.
So y'all, Blake has years upon years in this game. Like he ain't no rookie. You know what I'm saying? He's got some good rookies, but he ain't no good rookie. Like this guy is dope. So Blake, you've worked for I believe The Athletic in the past.
Yeah.
You've worked for the Toronto Fangraphs, Die Magazine, Vice, Raptors Republic. Now you co-host the Fan Morning Show. You have your own show that's now 5 to 7 weekdays. Like Blake, you're doing so much for the Raptors as well, but Sportsnet and with the Blue Jays. So we're just so happy to highlight you because I think someone like you who works really hard in this game rarely gets recognition. So we're happy to kind of bring on the show and talk a bit about you. Flex your arms a little bit for us, Blake. So walk us through, how did you get into this industry? Because it's really hard for people like yourself to move into The Athletic and then go to Sportsnet. Like, what was that like? Walk us through it, my brother.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, first of all. So yeah, I had like a non-standard path in. So I went to school to get a business degree. I was enrolled in law school at one point, and then was just like working an office job after I decided not to go to law school. And then, I was just writing for fun on the side and decided I wanted to try it. So I moved out to Vancouver to try to get a master's of journalism at University of British Columbia. And it turns out I didn't really need that. I enjoyed my time out there and everything. But a year into that program, I dropped out and got a job in the industry. And a lot of that, so to be completely clear, there's obviously an element of, privilege here that I was able to go and get a business degree. And that's my plan B. I could take some risks knowing that that was my backup. And the fact that I was able to do that out of high school, I worked my ass off it and had lots of jobs and stuff like that. But not everyone can take that same kind of risk. And then basically the year I was at UBC, when I was supposed to be focusing on my master's, I I use all the time I possibly could to write, and I worked for the athletic department, so I got to do some play-by-play stuff and write like programs and write for the school website and everything like that. So it was just kind of take every opportunity I could get. Sorry. And yeah, and grind out things like, you know, doing the odd freelance thing for Fangraphs or for ESPN. And then like I was really fortunate that year, ESPN was like a core sponsor at the Sloan Sports Analytics Conference at MIT. So I got to go out for that. Like it was like if I paid my own way, they would get me in the door. So that was really cool. And then yeah, so I got hired by The Score, did 2 years there, and this whole time on the side I was also like had Raptors Republic. So me and a couple other people have kind of run that over the years, and you know, it's been awesome to see how many other Raptors media people have come through Raptors Republic, like a William Liu, you know, like a Kelsey O'Brien, who does a lot of the 905 stuff. A lot of people have Vivek Jacob, who is now doing it for Raptors.com and CBC. So a lot of people have come through there, which is really cool. So that was kind of like a side thing that I had the whole time. After The Score, I did like 2 years there as our like main NBA guy and like doing a lot of NBA draft stuff and everything. And then there wasn't really, I enjoyed my time there, but there was nowhere to go. There's not like, there aren't other jobs there. It's just everyone has kind of the same job. And I was a little hungry for more. So, again, this is where, you know, having an element of good fortune or privilege, if you'd like to call it, comes in, where I moved to Drumbo, Ontario, and lived with my mom for a couple months and kind of struck out on my own trying to do freelance full time. And I was like living in downtown Toronto, like I have no idea if I'm going to make enough money, what that's going to look like. So yeah, did the typical blogger, moved into, it wasn't my mom's basement, but basically the blogger in your mom's basement. And then, yeah, from there, just kind of built up with Raptors Republic, and then, you know, Vice or ESPN or whoever needed work. And then eventually The Athletic launched, and I kind of caught on with them. And then, yeah, just kind of one little step after the other. It's funny. I was just talking to someone earlier today, and they asked me about like long-term goals or something like that. And I was like, I don't know. My whole career has just been like, get a grip here and then like, then climb to the next thing and just like get a little grip. So yeah, it's not there's not like a clear path. It was kind of just like do the next thing, try to kill it and work really hard and you know, meet good people and stuff like that. And then, okay, try to get the next thing and try to get the next thing. So, yeah, it's been fun. I was actually looking back the other day, and it was, I think last week or the week before was exactly 10 years since I moved, like packed up and moved to Vancouver to try this. So it's
well, happy 10-year anniversary.
Thank you. Good timing. It makes me feel old, but it is good timing to come on a podcast like this and reflect on it a little bit.
No, but honestly, your story is so important, Blake, because I just think that you're talking and I'm like, does he understand that he had such faith? Like you had such faith, Blake, in not only in your love and passion, but in the fact that I can do this. Like a lot of people don't even have that mindset of, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna move there and I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna make friends. I'm gonna network. Like networking is important. The fact that you put yourself out there, you invested time and money in yourself prior to getting money from the industry. I think you have so many values and things that you did that you were kind of like, yeah, I did this. I'm like, damn, what? I'm like, what is he? But that's the thing about, you know, people like you, because you're someone I think people understand that to get into where you want to be, you gotta sacrifice and take risks right?
Yeah, I definitely took risks. And you know, the career I was in, the career path I was on before was a lot more secure and a lot more straightforward, right? Like you kind of know what your next 20 years looks like, and it would have been boring. So it's not like I did it. I mean, obviously I did out of self-interest. I wanted my job to be talking about sports every day. And like, you know, podcasts weren't as big a thing then, but if they were, I'd be like, yeah, this would be what I want my job to be, hopping on a podcast or hopping on a radio show or writing an article. So it's been cool. But yeah, it was also, you know, it was interesting the timing that I was coming up where like there wasn't really like a version of me before. So like even if I had known that this is what I wanted to do, there wasn't like that role to shoot for because like analytics weren't really a thing yet. And you know, most people were like, okay, you do one sport and you stick to one sport. There weren't a lot, like people that weren't really doing all over the place. You were on one beat and that's it. So, and then like, even like, again, this is really aging myself, but like podcasting in like 2013 was like not nearly as common a thing. So there were just kind of, the timing with where the industry's gone has been pretty fortunate for me too. On top of which, like that first year that I mentioned where I moved home and freelanced, the Raptors go on a run to the Eastern Conference Finals. And then my first year full-time at the Athletic was the year the Raptors win the championship. Like the Raptors helped me out a lot with this too. Just good timing.
Let's go Raptors.
Yeah, good timing here and there.
But question for you, Blake, because you talk about your love for sports, like I gotta find out what athlete or what team kind of like I guess created that plant that's now a freaking tree that made you love sports so much. Was it a particular event? Like walk us through that as well. Like,
yeah, I don't have a specific event, but when I was a kid, I was like all hockey all the time. Like hockey was my life. I played rep hockey at like, not like the highest level, but like a pretty good level until I was like a teenager. My dad loved hockey and kind of was, you know, I was year-round hockey, because once you're past a certain level of like good at hockey, you know, you're not playing baseball, soccer, basketball, nothing like that. It's like, no, your summer is also hockey. You're in a cold arena all summer. So that was like, until I was a teenager, that was pretty much it for me. So I guess it would be the Leafs more than anything else, or like, you know, Canadian Olympic teams and stuff like that. Like I one of my earliest like distinct sports memories is when NHL players could go back into the Olympics for the first time, and I want to say 2000, and like, you know, Gretzky's on the team and stuff like that, and the women's team is also so incredible during that era. So those are kind of my earlier sports memories. And it wasn't, so baseball for me was always like, I have family in Newfoundland, and when my grandparents were alive, they were big baseball fans, and I would go out there for the summer, they'd come here, and like baseball was always a part of that. And then basketball, honestly, I didn't really find until high school, when like all my friends played basketball and I got hurt wrestling and playing hockey, so I just like managed our basketball team. And then from there, for me, it was like basketball just like took off. I was like, no, this is way better.
Amazing.
The video games are better. The games are more entertaining. The culture around it is way better than hockey culture. Like that was a really quick takeoff with basketball.
That's an awesome story. I love that.
So you go back, you're saying 10 years, right? The landscape's obviously different when you would have started till now. I mean, the point of entry, there's so much like content creators now are coming by the dozens daily, you know, like there's everywhere. While when you were maybe 10 years ago, it was still happening. I think there was still the earlier shift, right? Is there anything right now, say for someone who is a content creator looking to get into the space, is there anything, put yourself in what you would do right now if you came out right now with the different options?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because like when I was starting, the biggest hurdle was like, how do I get my content to people? Because Twitter was still like fairly new. Like the people who were like engaging with stuff on Twitter was not anywhere near the volume it is now. And, you know, Instagram didn't exist, and YouTube was there, but like you weren't really YouTubing. So, and then now the biggest challenge isn't getting your content to people. It's breaking through just how much content there is. So what I would say is, probably for someone who's trying to get in, is, given what's happened over, say, the last 5 years in the industry, the biggest thing you're going to be able to have is versatility. So like, you know, there was a stretch where like when I started, blogs were the thing, right? That's how you were going to get noticed. That was the content people wanted the most. And then by the time, you know, I went out and did my own thing, you know, podcasts were hot and everyone had a podcast, and that's what companies were chasing for, you know, trying to monetize and things like that. And then the last couple of years, like YouTube or Twitch or whatever video streaming, video podcasts like this one, that's kind of what's taken over. Now I'm in a spot where I'm lucky that, having come up that way, like I can do all of those, and I'm comfortable going in between mediums.
Blake's like, I'm the shit. I'm sorry, I have to say that.
No,
I'm the shit. I'm
like, I don't mind talking or writing, and you know, I look
video
like what I look like,
gaming.
so who cares? So but yeah, if someone's coming up now, like that level of versatility, and like if the industry changes again, you got to be ready to go. I know you guys do a lot of Twitter spaces after Raptors games, like that's something that you guys have been on top of, and I know there are pockets of Raptors Twitter that have been engaged with that too. Is like, okay, that comes up, maybe you don't think Twitter Spaces is going to be a thing long term.
Mhm.
Maybe you do, but you got to try it out anyway, and you got to be
Right.
ready to go on it, because if
Exactly.
that's where things turn, then
Mhm.
you got to be on it, and you got to have that comfort level and that skill set.
Nice.
Oh, I love that.
Nice.
Well, guys,
Nice.
Blake Murphy, we're going to have his link to his Sportsnet articles. Support, follow, share. I always retweet your stuff because you'll have really dope information on the Raptors, especially because I am a Raptor whore. Not that kind of whore, guys, but you know, like information whore. Okay, calm down.
Yeah. We're getting so close. Like, I know I'm on baseball right now, and I've mentioned basketball a lot of times
You
on this
do.
podcast, but like the last couple years, I've been like just Raptors. So like doing this J show is awesome, but not being at summer league this year, and like I won't be
that's
at training
right.
camp because the Jays are going to be right before the playoffs. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm itching. Like, there's a reason I still post the like, hey, by the way, here are all the contract details on Christian Coloco. Like, I'm itching too, so I'm with you. I can't wait for the, you know, your first preseason Twitter space after a game, or the first Will Lou React pod or whatever. I'm ready to go.
Let's
Nice.
go.
Nice. All right. So, you know what? Let's close this out with That's Absurd.
That's absurd. Faheem, bro, what was absurd this week? What was absurd?
An Italian tennis umpire. He's been banned for 7 years after admitting for match fixing.
Are
Absurd.
we surprised? But are we surprised? It's absurd, but are we surprised?
Absurd.
Absurd.
Anything on that, Blake?
Blake, are you shocked? Are you surprised?
I mean,
7 years, not a full ban.
I'm a little surprised that you can get caught, because like
Right.
you know, there's like video review of the lineouts and stuff now. Like I don't know, in a sport where every play has VAR, how you even try to fix a match. You're like, hey, that's out, and then they go to the video, it's like, nah, man, that was in. And he ate like a $50,000 fine for that too. So like, I hope you made your money off of it, because like, I hope match fixing pays well, because them being like 50,000, cut the check is absurd is a good word for it.
Absurd. It's crazy because we hear about referees and different sports with umpires or like people who we trust to like regulate the game getting caught. Do we think it's based off of like the betting world? Because I'm assuming someone obviously was bankrolling him. Like, I don't think he's fixing matches just because he wanted to fix it. You know me, I'm a theorist, so I'm thinking someone must have said, "Hey, bruh, if you let this if this person wins, I'm gonna give you extra."
Yeah, it's follow the money for sure.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Like, Tim Donaghy talks out his butt a lot and like makes himself seem way more important than he actually was at the time. But like, that was the story with him too, is like, you're not doing that because you want a team to win. You're cutting the points from an 8-point deficit to a 6-point deficit so that the spread swings, right? Like, it's always like, anytime something like this happens, you always find out it was about the spread, not necessarily the outcome.
About the outcome.
Yeah. So
me,
apparently,
what was absurd for me on top of that was the ban. I just think that he should be banned for life. I think a 7-year ban is just like, so what? In 7 years, he'll be a better person by then. I just think that's his character. So I don't think he should be banned for 7. I should be a lifetime ban. But go ahead, B.
Yeah, he was delaying and inputting scores into the scoring device. And also the scores which he did put didn't actually reflect the scores on the court. So he tried to pull it over the wool right over people's eyes. And it's funny how you get caught that way. So definitely that was absurd.
Absurd. And I wasn't surprised. I always felt umpires were shaky, man. Listen, Serena Williams, the cuss up umpires, Novak, like, they get mad. And I'm like, why do they get so mad at these people? But I'm sure they're doing shady stuff sometimes. So, but they got caught, like Blake said. How do you get caught? Like,
definitely. All right. So let's put this episode in the books, Nelly J.
That was the Good Rookie Show featuring Blake Murphy.
Yeah.
So, Blake, we always like to give our guests a chance to do a special shout out. So the floor is yours.
To anyone at all?
Anyone, anything.
Anything. It's up to you, man.
All right, I'm gonna shout out S. If you guys know S from Raptors Twitter, and only because I was right before we came on, I was giving him a really hard time. He's like planning his wedding right now, and I give him a hard time about stuff all the time. But I think I like actually made him anxious, being like, "Hey man, my invite got lost." No, he's good people on Raptors Twitter, and he's another one that's in the spaces and stuff like that. Those spaces that Amon runs, and
Yes.
that group on Raptors Twitter. So, I mean, all of them, all Raptors Twitter for the most part is great. But yeah, I felt a little bad giving S a hard time, so I'll shout him out.
Nice.
Oh, man, nice. I'm gonna do a quick shout out to you, Blake. Thank you for being a leader in this space, for graciously blessing us with your presence. You could be doing anything right now, Blake, but you're with us. Thank you so much. I'm gonna shout out to the Raptors Twitter. We got a lot of spaces coming up this season. I can't wait for all the arguments and debates around the Raptors. Faheem.
Yeah, I want to shout out Blake. You're a real one. We appreciate you coming out and being with us today. Definitely enlightening our viewers on who you are, and we'll be able to follow you a lot more. That's the Good Rookies show, and we out.
Peace,
And we're on.
guys.
Peace.
Have a good day. Later.